I'm Becky with All Aspects Restored and Recycled, and this is our second video to our series on refinishing this sideboard. Today in this video we're going to talk about primer. Our first video we scuffed our piece of furniture really well. We talked a lot about cleaning and proper prep prior to primer and paint, and today we're going to talk about primer and when to prime, why to prime, and the different kinds of primer. We're going to be using the Wise Owl primer. You'll see on here it says stain eliminating primer. The nice thing about Wise Owl's primer is it's really a 2-in-1 water-based primer. So what I mean by 2-in-1 is it's also going to work to make sure that your paint will adhere to slick, really hard to paint surfaces. So it's also a bonding primer as well. So if we wanted to paint on a piece of furniture that was a laminate or a very slick surface or metal, or if you're going to paint on tile, you're going to want to prime it first to make sure that your paint is going to adhere to that without being able to scratch off. So with the Wise Owl primer, we'll prime any hard to paint surface, and in this way we know we have proper adhesion. In addition to that, like it says on here, stain eliminating. A lot of the times, furniture, when you paint it, you can have these tannins that bleed through. So it happens very commonly with cherry, which this is the cherry sideboard, cherry wood, mahogany, or turn-of-the-century pieces. So any kind of a darker wood or red wood is just known to have these tannins bleed through once you paint it. And so what that would mean is that if we were to just put paint onto the surface, as the paint begins to cure, you can kind of have these spots that bleed through. And we don't want that. We want to avoid that. So in that case, we'll make sure that we prime the piece of furniture first. If you're painting with whites or creams or light colors, it's always good to properly prep your piece and to prime it. So it's an extra step, but the goal is to make sure that your piece you have the best possible outcome. So where priming is one extra step, in the long run, it's really worth it. At least we feel it's really worth it, and everything we talk about in this video is just really kind of best practice that we do here. And so, like I said, because we sell a lot of furniture in our store, we want to make sure that when the customer goes home, there's no adhesion issues, that they're not going to scrape the paint off, and we want to make sure that it paint's properly adhered. We've done everything we can to have made, a professional finished piece. So that one extra step of priming it, although it may take some time, is worth it in the long run to make sure that the paint adheres properly and that you have no tannins that bleed through. When you are using the primer, the nice thing also with the Wise Owl primer is you do have options. It does come in 4 different colors. They sell it in quarts and they sell it in a gallon. The quart covers about 160 square feet, so if you're working on furniture, it's plenty to get through a few pieces, which is great. This piece of furniture we're doing a clear primer on, and the reason why we're using clear is because this is going to be distressed. So the clear primer is really great because if you want to distress the piece, when you're distressing and you're taking the paint off, you're not going to see that primer underneath. So you'll use clear primer if you're going to distress. There's white primer, which is great for any kind of whites or creams. So I pulled a sample of Isles Ave. So this is a nice, soft, creamy off-white. So if I was going to paint with Isles Ave or Antique Villa or Snow Owl or Bone, any of the lighter colors, then I would use a white primer. There's a gray primer, and then there's also a dark gray primer. So the gray primer is great for middle of the range tones. It's nice for the reds, for turmerics, yellows, and then there's a dark primer, which is great for your navies and your darker grays or your blacks. So the gray and the dark gray primer are nice because they'll help enrich the tint of some of those medium to darker tones. Okay, so 4 colors: clear, white, gray, or dark gray. Those are your options. Quarts or gallons. We just about always use the quarts here. And because this piece is going to be done in clear, I wanted to show you the clear, mainly because it's very milky. So you can just see it kind of before a plastic fork here, so you can kind of see it's just very, very milky. So I wanted to show you that because to make sure that when you're open up your quart of clear primer, if you're going to be using clear as your primer to distress your piece in the future, that when you opened it, you didn't think anything was wrong. So the clear primer is very, very milky, but it will dry clear. So you're not going to see that when it dries, so not to worry there. So when you apply the primer, you can actually, like I said, it is a water-based primer, so you can apply it with your same brush that you're going to be using to paint. So you'll just clean it really well in between. So here, if you've been in the shop, you know we sell Klingons. If you've watched other videos, we tend to talk a lot about the Klingon brushes. They've become my favorite brush. It's a synthetic brush. They come in a range, there's a large range of them from flats to rounds. They have an angle, they have shorter brushes, they have ovals. So this is the F50. What I like about this brush is it has, so it's not, you know, a huge brush, but it's one of the wider brushes, so this way it'll has a nice good application. So it'll get a lot of the product on. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the tip of my brush. I don't want to fill it up too much. I'm going to apply it. You'll see that it goes on. So you can see it. Yep, it looks like it's very milky when you look at it. And then as it dries, it will dry clear. Now the primer, when I apply it, I'm just going to follow the direction of the grain of my wood. Nice long strokes. Again, anything water-based, you don't want to overwork. So what that means is that they do dry a little bit faster, and you don't need to go back over what you've already done too many times. With the primer, you'll have, you feel like you missed an area, you can get that in your second coat. So the primer will be dry to touch within an hour. I've applied it after already scuffing and really cleaning my piece well. And then your primer, although dry to touch after an hour, you should reapply a second coat after 4 to 6 hours. Now, do you need to prime every piece? No, not necessarily. Do we here? Yes, most of the time. Why are we priming this one? Because when I was cleaning it, as I was cleaning it, I first cleaned with my TSP and then I wiped it back with the water, and on my shop towel from cleaning it, there was a lot of red old stain. And I just knew that this piece was, because of how the stain was coming off and how like dirty it was. A lot of times you just spray your water and watch your piece drip. If you have dark coming off, you just know that there's a chance that that piece is going to bleed, and there's no reason to risk it. So this is one extra step. It's not going to take that long, and this way it's going to prevent any tannins from bleeding through. And again, this is a cherry piece, and even though this piece is going to be going darker, you guys voted when we asked what color, and you voted Prussian blue. So in our next video, we are going to be painting this piece in Prussian blue. So what I'll probably do is stop the video, go ahead and give this piece a full coat. This is actually the second coat. We had already done one coat of clear primer on this. I did it last night before leaving the shop, and then came back in, and we're going to give it a second coat today. So, okay guys, we've got another coat of primer. So this piece has had 2 coats of primer on every area that we're going to paint. So on the sides, in this piece we are going to do the inside of it. So we have it on the inside, the top. So I've given our sideboard 2 coats of primer, 4 to 6 hours apart is recommended. If you feel, honestly, because we're painting blue and this isn't a slick surface, could we have gotten away with 1 coat of primer? Yes, we can. For the sake of the video, and because this is a piece that we're selling in the store, we gave it 2 coats, because the more prep you do, the better prep is never going to harm you. It's only going to give you a better outcome to your finished piece. So again, 1 coat of primer on a piece that is not slick, that we are painting dark, would have been fine. This old girl has 2 coats of primer, and we'll be ready for our 3rd video where we'll be painting in Prussian blue. Now I'm going to take my Klingon, I'm going to go in the back, I'm going to wash it in warm soapy water, make sure I get my brush clean really well, and stay tuned. We will be doing a 3rd video on painting and just the basics on painting. We're going to do our whole piece in Prussian blue, and then we'll continue on and we will do a 4th video on sealing our piece. And I just think it looks so pretty if we could put some black walnut wax on there. So again, I'm Becky with All Aspects Restored and Recycled. You can get your materials in our store in Mount Bethel, PA, or we are online at allaspectsrestoredandrecycled.com. Thanks so much. Have a good day.